Welcome to From Bottles to the Boardroom, where we explore the blend of the best, the people, places, and possibilities of Southern California wine country. I'm your host, Connie Stouffer, and each episode we sit down with local leaders, innovators, and dreamers who are building business and community among the vines. Because here in SoCal wine country, business growth meets the good life, and every great conversation starts with a good pour. In this episode, MSJC President Dr. Roger Schultz reveals how MSJC has transformed from a sleepy campus into a powerhouse serving over 30,000 students across 1,700 square miles, and how they're building a future worth watching. Join us as we explore the innovative strategies behind MSJC's growth, including groundbreaking $110 million Temecula campus acquisition, which created nearly $500 million in value almost overnight. Discover how carefully tailored programs meet unique regional needs, from welding and biotech to healthcare and technology, driving local economic development and attracting major employers. You'll learn about the secret sauce, exceptional facilities, a thriving community-focused approach, and a commitment to accessibility that keeps education affordable. President Roger Schultz, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I'm glad you could be here today.
It's my pleasure. It's good to see you anytime, but even online is great, Connie.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to start, and I know a lot of people in the community know you, but if you could start just by telling me a little bit about yourself and what you do at MSJC.
Well, I am the superintendent president, and I've been in this role for 18 years, and that'll come to a conclusion when I retire at the end of June. Before that, I was a vice president of student services here, and then a VP of instruction for a little bit. So a total of 25 years just here at MSJC, doing pretty much whatever the board needed me to do and whatever the staff needed me to do.
Well, that's a good place for us to start, because I really wanted to give a kind of a overview of MSJC, because it's a really big community college here in California and it does a lot. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about MSJC and the work that you do here in the community.
So if you want to go all the way back to the very roots of MSJC, started in 1963. Even before that, there was a local passage of some local legislation that formed the district. But the college really opened its doors, I think it was 1963. And so fast forward, it started obviously in the San Jacinto area after the namesake. First classes were offered in Beaumont. A couple decades later, the district expanded into the growing area of Temecula, Murrieta area. The growth was kind of slow. It was a very rural college with only its one campus, San Jacinto, for many years. And then in the 90s, they acquired yet to be booming Menifee, right off the 215 freeway. I actually was a recruiter for USC, was sent out there on a Friday to check out this new community college. And we still had traffic in those days, but there were no homes. There was this little tiny campus with a couple of buildings. And I got back to USC and they were like, it's going to be a booming campus one day. There's tons of houses coming around it. I was like, no, somebody's screwing with me. You did that to me on purpose on a Friday. And there's still plenty of traffic out here. Yeah. But then we added, as the campus grew, we started to become this fast-growing campus just because of the population growth. And then you've seen the addition of buildings. And then we passed in 2014 Measure AA because of the generosity of the people in the region, recognizing we needed improved facilities and to also expand into the Temecula Murrieta area. We didn't have a location, but we knew we needed something along the 15, preferably to the south. Certainly we purchased some property in Wildomar, and our intention was to develop that as well. But we had that money. We started developing some projects. We got some state match. So we got the STEM buildings, and we got a stadium and kinesiology and a whole lot of other little things. And the reality was we still were lacking something on the 15 corridor. And so we were really looking at developing Wildomar, which we still own that land. But the opportunity came up with Temecula, where our Temecula campus is. Literally one of these too good to be true deals. And we worked it and we penciled out the numbers, and I kept scratching my head going, the numbers are too good to be true, because what we were able to get it for, what we were able to retrofit it for, literally gave the taxpayers an incredible return on investment. Not only did they get a great facility, but after investing about $110 million in acquisition and refurbishing and remodeling, the structure when we opened was estimated to be worth, not the land, just the structure alone, $425 to $450 million. So almost immediately, 300 plus million in equity. I don't even want to know what the valuation is today. But over that period, we've grown. We went from this sleepy little rural college to one that serves over 30,000 students a year. So it's graduation week this week, so I know these numbers are fresh. We had 8 graduating students in our first graduating class. And now we're approaching almost 4,000 students receiving degrees this year at Pechanga. And that's a testament. People are like, well, why aren't you having it at the stadium? Well, it's going to be hot. You have to have multiple ceremonies. And when you have that many graduates, you have to have 4 ceremonies. So we're not the sleepy little college that could hold a graduation ceremony in a small gym. It's a big time show. And again, our students go on to do great things with transfer and all their preparation to enter the workforce. So I'm incredibly proud of what we've achieved for the residents of Southwest Riverside County and all of the area that we serve, which is a 1,700 square mile area. So not a small geographic slice either.
No, it's huge. It's the size of some small East Coast states, right? So it's a huge area. And what an accomplishment to have so many graduates, because that's such a service to their life. They're going to be able to do so much with those degrees into the community. And I've been seeing a lot of stats across the country about colleges struggling with enrollment, but we're continuing to see growth. And I know part of that's population, but I think that's also part of the work that you guys do here. What can you talk about that a little bit, about the growth in enrollment, and maybe what your thoughts are on why we're seeing that here?
Well, you hit on a really good point. We are a product of the community, hence the community college. And what's beautiful about our region is, well, let's go back about pre-COVID. I know I gave our marketing department a budget of nearly $1 million a year to advertising and to create top of mind awareness. Remember, we didn't have all those beautiful facilities that we now have completed now. People are flocking to us without any advertising. Now, we have some top of mind stuff, but nowhere near. It's well under $100,000 a year. So we're spending a fraction of the money because people see the great facilities. We have become an institution of choice with all the great housing that's come into the areas and the quality of life. We're seeing amazing caliber of faculty, PhDs from major universities that are bringing their instructional abilities to MSJC. And I just spent the morning in interviews, and I'm like, I can't divulge out of confidentiality, but again, I continue to be impressed by these major research university people. And I'm like, why do you want to teach here? And they're like, well, because I want to teach. I don't want to do research, but I'm at the top of my game. So we're bringing in these great people that add to our reputation. And then we got the facilities. And then even though you said, maybe you don't want to touch on it a whole lot, but we are a product of the region, and looking at all the population that comes in, talking to my K through 12 superintendent partners, they're bucking the trends of the coastal cities just because it's not just the affordability issue. Let's be honest, it's the quality of life here. You've got healthcare, you've got all the amenities now. You've got quality K through 12 education, great shopping, safe streets, affordable homes, great air, still have a little bit of traffic, but I think
can't have everything.
You put it together, it's a pretty darn good package. And if you want to go to San Diego, okay, you're an hour and 15 away. You want to make the mistake like I did a couple weeks ago and go into LA, so you might be able to make it in 2 hours. And then if you want to go to the mountains, you got Idlewild and everything in between, the quality of life with all that's here. Like I said, the safety, the beautiful vineyards, and the ability to get a job and stay here after you graduate or when you move here. I think it's a complete ecosystem for success.
100%. And as you know, we do business attraction, and workforce is such a critical component for businesses to cite, and just to have the pipeline of students coming out of great K through 12 schools and then going into such a great community college system really builds that ecosystem to be able to find the people they need, right? Part of the traffic issue is because we have the people that we need and they're not everywhere else, right? I think so many places they could land and it might be big open space without any traffic, but they're going to struggle to find the talented people that we are just developing here through the ecosystem.
Yeah, and if I could add just a footnote, like I said, I'm going through hiring right now. In the last couple of years, it's kind of cool to see this trend of people that were students 10 years ago that I remember, and they're off to the big city. They may go to LA, they may go to UCLA and Brentwood, and then the Bay Area or back east. Now they're back, and they're like, why do you want to be here? Well, the quality of life. And it's like, okay, it's not just my observation. It's these young people that are choosing to come back, that are highly educated, that have experienced these other vibrant areas, and they're choosing to come back into the area. And I think that really shows the social health of our area as well as the economic health.
I think that's so true. There's so many communities across the country who, they worry about their young people going away to college. And I've always said, you want them to go and get experience, but you have to craft a place that's great enough for them to want to come back to, right? And I think the fact that we see so many people come back here is a testament to what a wonderful place it is.
Yeah.
For sure. So I want to go back to one other thing. The size of MSJC's jurisdiction is so huge, and there's a very diverse set of communities amongst those, and they're spread far apart. And you serve a very diverse student population as well. Tell me a little bit about what goes into coordinating that education system across such a large area and doing it so well, because you guys have received a lot of accolades for the education that you provide there. That must be uniquely challenging, because I think some community colleges are a location. They're certainly not serving multiple locations over such a big region.
Yeah, I know the district that I came from before, it was really a two-city region with one school district, one community college district, one CSU, and it was right there all compressed. As you said, I don't even want to think of how many school districts and then all the independent schools, all the cities, they all have unique needs and personalities, and they're a reflection of the assets that they bring. Some of our areas might be more industrial and need more career ed. Certainly areas down here, not to say that we wouldn't produce career ed minded programs for the Southwest Riverside County area, but there's more of a focus on STEM and getting people into allied health careers and expanding those programs and trying to create the next biotech workforce that we can continue to pull companies from northern San Diego County to show that we have a viable workforce and a pipeline for them. And so we do have to get out. It's not just me. The deans meet. We're governed by a 5-member regionally. Each trustee area is assigned to an area, and those trustees meet regularly with their local elected officials. They'll bring me in on meetings. So we do have advisory committees as well for the career ed areas. So there's really a pulse monitoring of what the various regions need. Now, we can't do everything, and we can't replicate it. For example, I'm going to use athletics as an example. I can't have football at 2 different sites. I can't have a major theater production at multiple sites. Those are expensive propositions, but we can do it really well at one site. People have said, well, add nursing back to San Jacinto. Well, nursing is very high cost, so we need to keep that centralized to where it's currently at in the Menifee region. But we do try and tailor our programs for what we're hearing the various communities need. One of the more recent programs we just launched to great success was welding. We were hearing there's light manufacturing, light industrial needed in the Hemet area. We opened the welding program in combination working with a facility that we're partnering with Hemet Unified on, and those classes are full. And I don't want to misquote some of the wage information, but I thought I saw something that was like, starting salaries are probably in the $60,000 to $70,000 range, but then off the record, one of the faculty members said after a year, it's more like $100,000 a year. So it's really cool to design these programs and implement them based on community needs. So if you think that I'm sitting, and I'm in my satellite office, if I was sitting in my Temecula tower and just sitting there looking at data and selecting programs that I perceive or my institutional research team and instruction perceives, it's all driven by the community's needs and the real world workforce needs of what we can marry with our assets and what those real world needs are.
Yeah, I think it's so true. And I've just, in the time that I've been here, I've seen so much investment in the campuses. You know, the Temecula campus is one of the prettiest I've ever seen in a community college. But the Menifee campus is beautiful as well and has brand new facilities there as well, not just the stadium, but academic space as well. And so I think there's just really great facilities for students to learn in and to do great work and to have a great career coming out of that pays you six figures coming out of a community college.
Oh yeah, and there's a few more in the pipeline that I think the next president will be able to look at, and then there's always the opportunity for a potential bachelor's degree. We've certainly had great partnership with our local CSUs, but the ability of community colleges to develop little niche programs that I don't want to call them boutique, but really that niche program that meets local workforce needs. I could see that happening in the not too distant future, which would further enhance our ability to support and develop the local economic system, local economic development system for you, making your job a lot easier to attract some of those biotech companies.
Well, I appreciate that. And we didn't really touch on it yet, but that Temecula location has a tremendous amount of space to add some of those programs, which is another tremendous great asset that we have to know that there's room for either those partnerships or new programs that support employers in the region.
Yeah, that space that you're referring to, we only really occupy half that 360,000 square foot building. And it's just because we've leveraged technology, whereas we knew we would continue to grow, but there are certain programs that do better on ground, and certainly trying to create the university center concept. I'll tell you, before COVID, when we had acquired the building, I was probably meeting with 10 universities from San Diego into the metro LA area. And all of them were like, we can't wait to get here, and would show the concepts. And then COVID happened, and the consumption of higher education changed dramatically. And I think we're still adapting to that. The problem is the need for higher education has never been greater. How we deliver it does look a little different, but there are some things that you have to teach in a lab. There are some things that are applied and hands-on that you really need to have. And there's tremendous opportunity with that other half of the building being open and available to design. Just the costs have gone up now with inflation, but I still think it's a very reasonable value proposition that will allow the residents of this region to access a bachelor's, but more importantly, graduate degrees. Schools we're talking to now are talking about bringing in master's, PhD, and post-grad certifications. And you may not know it, and Connie, I wouldn't expect you to. There's a little hill that's kind of like a boomerang shape that is actually the third entitled tower. So I could see in a decade the University Center Tower being full at operation and a need for more, and I could see a third tower being built. And talking to some community leaders, they see that as well, as far as from the business side. So the cool thing about Temecula, not just any campus, but that site has unusual future capacity capabilities that will allow it to morph to whatever the needs of the community are going forward. So I could see that being built 10 years from now, 12 years from now, 15 years from now. I don't think it'll take 20, because I think the growth in the region is going to require more access to sophisticated cutting edge training.
Yeah, and I wonder, so you mentioned a little bit about COVID having an impact on consumption of higher education, and I think young people have been trying to ask themselves, like, is it worth it for me to go into debt, to go to college, to get a degree? And I think for some kids, they could go get a welding certificate and make good money, but I still, myself, see the huge value in higher education for personal development, but career development and longevity and kind of a career pursuit. And I wonder if you could speak to a little bit about the value of a community college education. So, because you can get a long way in your college education without going into the extreme debt that you might go from another route. And so people, if it's a parent that's out there listening, trying to decide how they're going to help their child navigate post high school, or if it's a young person that's listening, like, do I want to go to college? Do I want to go into debt? Talk a little bit about how the access to education and the community college can provide that.
Well, first of all, there's no greater value in higher education, I think, anywhere, is the California community colleges. The fact that 70% of our students do not pay fees, they qualify for fee waivers. And the other 30%, actually, if they meet certain criteria, there's other opportunities to waive those fees or be met with grants, and that's not to mention all the foundation grants that are available. So costs really should not be a question, because even if you had to pay full boat, you're looking at less than $50 a unit, $46 a unit. You're looking at a full-time load, what's that going to be, in the neighborhood of $600-700 plus your books are going to cost you more, but even that is changing. I can remember sitting in a cabinet meeting, my kid coming knocking on the door, I need another $500 for my physics book, and I'm like, what? And so a lot of our faculty have really started to look into open educational resources, OER, so that students can download content that is every bit as quality as the regular textbooks, but getting access to those things that typically would cost $100-200, and you multiply that by 3, 4, 5 classes, that gets up there really quick. You take away the opportunity cost of somebody going full-time, not being able to work, that exacerbates it, and then of course there's just real life expenses. Fortunately, we're a community college, we're not a destination college, so most of our students do have resources to live at home. So the value is there, but then the value on the return on investment for our programs, there's an article just last week in the Chronicle of Higher Education. I didn't get to go back and read it because of interviews and end of year activities, but I did read like the first paragraph, and it validated what I think we in education all know, that if you choose the right major that matches with the job and workforce needs of your region, you're going to get a return on investment many-fold. And I know for a long time when I would used to do recruiting, I'd show the charts of employment rates of people with degrees. So even when the economy turns rocky, people with higher education tend to have the ability to morph, either stay employed or morph. They can tend to be lifelong learners. And the more advanced degrees you get, not only the higher compensation, also the higher retention you have and the employability that you have. So all those factors play in. I don't know. There are some majors that are probably out there that are going to be a little bit harder to find a job if we head towards a recession at some point. But certainly the data is overwhelming that shows return on investment, even for, and that was a negative statement. That was a deficit-minded statement, even for a community college. Yeah. I think we see that our allied health students, students that are in the sonography program, the ultrasound, very small program, we're trying to expand that. Those people have jobs well before the time they graduate, approaching 6 figures as they leave us. Nurses, same thing. We're very happy we're going to be able to expand our nursing program to 84. We just went to 72 2 years ago. My goal, if I were to have stayed here, and I'm sure the new president will feel the same way, there's such an unmet need for nursing and allied health. There are so many programs that we can add and expand to. Obviously, nurses are well paid and they're needed in our medically underserved area. But radiologic technology, and then there's other technician programs we can add. All of those affording a livable wage without any debt for most students. So again, the question of return on investment is return on investment of your time. You can't look at it as money, because there's no real excuse, because MSJC and community colleges for the most part can really make it affordable, and that's why I love our Chancellor's Office statewide campaign. You can see it on Ontario Airport. I don't fly out of San Diego, but I bet it's there because it's in Sacramento as well. It's I Can't Afford College, and you can see some of the billboards around. Funding should never be an issue, and we don't have entrance exams. We don't have anything that should make you fear coming to a community college, because the culture here is we want everybody to succeed, no matter what your background, no matter what your preparation. And I've seen it over and over again. We've got students that come in the door not speaking English and really struggling with basic skills, and then they're transferring as nursing bachelor's degree students on full scholarships. I'm just looking forward to, what am I saying, next week, this week, seeing some of the stories that come out. Every year, there's a handful of these stories that it's like, I came to MSJC with nothing and I'm leaving with 5 job offers or full rides to Berkeley. It's just so uplifting. In a world that's so negative, these students overcoming and being able to do great things with their life. The only thing that I always tell them is, don't forget us for Stanford and Berkeley, and UCLA. And remember your roots. Mm-hmm. MSJC got you going.
No, and I think they will, because one thing I've really always been impressed by is every time I'm at an MSJC event, the students are always uplifted and featured, like in a leadership role or a speaking role or an opportunity. I feel like MSJC has done such a great job at making sure that the students are not just there in class; they feel part of the organization and the community and the everything that's going on there on campus. It's just been really remarkable to see that, and so I'm sure they come away with feeling that too.
Well, and we got accreditation this past year. It didn't come up this time, but 7 years ago when the accrediting team was here, they noticed it. They said it is palpable how you as an organization have put students first, and it is really our core mission. We have to remind people all the time that they're our whole purpose for being. Occasionally I hear some comments that make me have to lecture and remind people of why we are here. But you're right. We do try and embed their perspectives. Now, a lot of times, like a parent, don't always have to agree with the younger versions of you. But I also try and put myself into their shoes and try and see through a student lens of some things that, from my perspective, may not work or doesn't sound like a great idea. But then I like to think about it, and I also try and model that behavior, and I encourage my team to as well. I've been mentoring formally for 18 years out of our formal Puente program, and occasionally I'll take on a couple other students, and it's so uplifting. All of those students, I always joke though, they always give me mentees that are destined for success so that I can't screw them up. But the reality is, I learn so much from our students, and our whole system learns from their perspectives. Again, we don't necessarily agree or see everything 100%, but I would tell you there is so much value in hearing their perspectives on issues, and it gives us an ability to innovate and see things through their lens to ultimately lead to their success.
No, I think that's incredible and definitely evident in the types of students that are graduating and going on to successful careers out of MSJC. We talked a little bit about the history of MSJC and how you came out to Menifee and there was nobody out here and you're like, it's never going to grow. But now we obviously see the transformation that's happened in the region. If you were to look in your crystal ball, in another 25 years, what do you see for the region as a whole and MSJC, and what do you see on the horizon?
I probably tipped my hand a little bit. I would see probably a handful of bachelor's degrees, not massive, but probably classes of between 30 and 50 in each program, supporting the hospitality industry, the biotech industry, probably like an engineering, something to support tech from that side, and certainly some things in allied health. So you'd have this smattering of those programs. I think our footprint is solid. We might need maybe some expansion up towards Wildemar, but the one thing that we learned is you don't need these massive campuses that are 80 sprawling acres. But students also want more than just a couple of modular buildings. That's what we've heard multiple times when we've tried to launch those types of endeavors. And so you have to have something that has a critical mass that allows for socialization. One interesting phenomena during COVID, as we were coming out, we're like, we have almost no face-to-face classes, but the libraries and the learning centers and the computer labs are all full. People were craving human contact. You may want to download your learning through technology, but we still have to give spaces for students to have that human connection. And I think maybe focusing on an emphasis of developing those types of opportunities at each campus and anything that we add to really create these collaborative spaces and open them up to the community as well. And so I would see that network being there, trying to continue to open the campuses up for more collaborative spaces, being literally at the forefront of technology adoption that will allow even more people, no matter what their connectivity levels are, to feel they can access higher ed through MSJC. But I think we might need a couple of other little on-ground things. I would love to see a performing arts center in the Menifee or Temecula area, but that'll require a bond, and that'll probably happen. The property valuations are good. We've been great stewards of the Measure AA funds. But I would see the enrollment continuing to grow. The only thing that has limited us to this point, and we're serving literally hundreds, if not 1,000 or more students a year, full-time equivalent, that we're not funded for. And if the state continues to come through with the funding, we had 5,000 students on our wait list this spring, unduplicated. So we could easily have been at 35,000 students. So when people start to hear, oh, we're opening up more classes, that's going to have more people come. So I could see this institution very quickly becoming 40, 50,000 students. I know that sounds like a large number, but my first day, I remember 25 years ago, they were all excited to get to 10,000 students for the year. And I would predict, with the growth of the region and the change in the need to be a lifelong learner, so I could see us being that modern graduate school. I used that phrase a long time ago, and I don't know who I stole it from. But you have to be a lifelong learner, and being able to be at the hub of the community, and people coming back with even advanced degrees and graduate degrees to learn technical skills that keeps them competitive, or new fields that might be complementary to their existing field. And so just that constant lifelong learner that complements our region. So you're not going to have just the traditional age college students. I think we've got to make people, the older adults, feel comfortable coming back. So the composition of what it looks like is probably going to continue to change.
I think that's so true. And I think I'm glad you brought that up, because being a lifelong learner, I think oftentimes when people think of college or community college, they're thinking kids who are just graduated from high school or getting ready for college, but it could be somebody mid-career that wants to go back and get a new skill. It could be somebody who's retired and wants to learn something new, to challenge themselves or to find a new hobby. Or I took a sailing class once from a community college, somewhere that I lived. Like, there's just fun things that you can access as a community member through your community college. One year I taught Excel at night for people at our community college where I lived there. I think there's just so many different things that people may not realize that they can tap into at their community college, just to keep fresh and to meet new people and do something fun, I think.
Well, you think of all the jobs that have just emerged in the last probably 5 years post-COVID. Imagine with the enhancement of AI and all those careers. I'm not worried for AI. I'm worried that we may not know how to adapt it and use it as a tool to leverage learning and to use it in the workforce. But I think that's probably going to be one of our skill sets that we can start to deliver into the future, because that's going to have application across everything. And every field would have that ability to benefit from that. So instead of fearing that, start to be able to, like you said, teach an evening course in Excel and understanding AI, or anything that would allow people to get more productive, or even just enhance their own personal.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And with AI in particular, it's going to be one of those skills where it's as good as what you put in there, right? So if you're like Excel, if you don't know how to do formulas, you're not going to be able to use it. It's just going to be making lists for you, essentially. But an AI is very similar, and it's going to continue to change. And so people may be very deep into their career, but need to freshen things up to stay up to date. And I think that's a perfect kind of thing to look to your community college for, just to kind of stay relevant and be a lifelong learner,
Yeah, the next wave graduate school.
Yes, college. Exactly. Exactly. I have a couple more questions. One, we kind of looked forward, but now we've talked a lot about the growth of MSJC in the region, but kind of from a personal level, from your career, what's something that you think is like you're going to take away and be like, man, that was really cool. I was really proud to be able to do that or be a part of that from your time at MSJC?
I've always... if you saw me 6'4", 300 pounds, I was kind of the Kurt Rambis, the enforcer on the basketball court. So I was never the sprinter. I was always just really trying to do it for the long haul. And the average the median tenure right now of a community college president in California is like 3.5 years.
Oh.
I've been able to be at this job for 18 years has allowed me to endure a lot of challenges and learn from them, and allowed me to carry on and I think follow through and finish projects that take 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years. If you're presented 3.5 years, you can't get a lot done. So everything from the bond and getting that through, having the vision and the passion to get that through, to, like you said, our STEM buildings that we just opened the last 2 years that were both bond funds, and the bond allowed us to get state match, to seeing that complete. So we basically finished off the $295 million from the Measure AA, but the impact that it's had across the region. And I can't point to any one thing. It's like a mosaic. There's all these great little activities that happened, but what has happened is it has created a mosaic of Mount San Jacinto College that shows us as this real high quality, medium to large community college, not just geographically, but as far as the size of the institution, set on a trajectory for success. We're financially incredibly stable, which allows us to ensure staff, and we can retain staff and make people feel that they, even in an economic downturn. So that's key, keeping the key people. And I look around, we've kept key people through the years when things have been tough, again, allowing us to do great things. So certainly the Temecula building, getting the buildings, the state match up front, I learned a lot personally, how you got to be at the table, and that's why I became our regional rep, and eventually the state CEO board chair for a year, and then the community college league board chair for a year as well. Gave me access on how to advocate for MSJC in our region. So I'm proud of that. It put us on the map in respect to that, because although the region was growing, there's still, I still get it today. You know where Mount Sac is, right? The bigger community college. They're one of the best. Great. I love their president, Dr. Martha Garcia. When we're at conferences, we always joke. In fact, I used to joke one time, if you like my speech, I'm Roger Schultz from Mount San Jacinto. If you don't like it, I'm Martha Garcia from Mount Sac. And everybody started laughing, because we still get phone calls like, what's in your such and such theater tonight? We don't have that theater. So, again, it's really putting MSJC on the map, allowing people, and going back to our little bit of the talk a minute ago, the fact that we're growing without any advertising, and our outreach staff is tiny and mighty, and they do a great job, but we're not pouring in a lot of the resources, and we're blessed because of where we're at. And I feel sorry for my sister colleges that are suffering declining enrollment, and the demographic trends do not look good for them at all. So again, really happy to be where I am, and there's a reason why I stayed, because it is such a great place with so many positive trends.
Yeah, that's so true, and I just want to say thank you, because the work that you have been able to do, and that MSJC has been able to do, it's so foundational for a community to be able to thrive, right? Without these kinds of resources for people to tap into, they would have to go a very long way to be able to access higher education, and so that they can have those here, or in San Jacinto, or in Hemet, or in Menifee, to be able to start their careers or to access the education they need, is part of why the region's thriving and will continue to thrive, is because those investments have been made here, and it's been so transformational.
Well, good. Thank you.
Yeah. Roger, I just want to say thank you for being on the show today, and for sharing so much, and for all that you've done for MSJC and for the region for 25 years. And I want to congratulate you on your retirement, and hopefully we'll continue to see you around a lot in the community. And I just want to thank you for being on the show.
It's been my honor and pleasure to both serve 25 years, and we've been fortunate to have stolen you from Idaho. So great to have you in the region, Connie.
Yes, I'm glad to be here too. I feel so lucky to be here and part of the community.
I'll see you around for sure.
Sounds good. That's it for today's episode of Bottles to the Boardroom. If you enjoyed this conversation, follow the show, leave a review, and share it with someone building something bold, or someone who simply appreciates a great story paired with a great glass of wine. I'm Connie Stouffer, and I'll see you next time in Southern California wine country, where business growth meets the good life, and every great idea starts with a good pour.